I'm Mike Carter, Angling Adventures Guide Service, Guntersville and Weiss Lakes. And what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about bull shads, different areas to look for, how to pattern these baits out, and how to use them, correct ways to use them, the equipment to use when using these baits also. When throwing these bull shads, I use a 7-11 heavy action hammer rod. It's got just enough tip on it to help when a fish hits this bait. You don't want a very stiff, quick tip on it because you will pull the bait away from the fish. Most of your hits on bull shads consist of the fish just wallowing on the bait instead of just basically engulfing it. I use a 7-11 hammer, heavy action hammer rod. I got a Faster Tree 7-1 gear ratio Abu Garcia reel. Use 20-pound fluorocarbon line. I like the fluorocarbon over braid because of the fact that the fluorocarbon, it's a lot easier to control with your casting, to where braid, sometimes braid will backlash. When it backlashes, it's going to pop that knot just like that. And with fluorocarbon, it's a little bit more forgiving with that. And that's kind of basic as far as the equipment goes. This is a bone color called the Other. The color is called Other with bull shad. And this is the actual bull shad itself, 6-inch version. And this one here is the new one. It's the Bull Gill. Once again, same equipment, 20-pound fluorocarbon, 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. The main difference is just that profile. They're just imitating the bluegill instead of a shad. You know, they're just imitating that bluegill profile. And it sounds like it's got a little bit harder of a knock to it than what the bull shad actually does. It's got its own natural sound where these joints knock together. So when that thing's coming in, you pull it down beside the boat, you can hear those jointed pieces knocking together. So it's almost like it's got its own rattle inside, but it doesn't have a rattle. It's just got where these joints here, it's just where they knock together. There's cheaper versions that's been copied of this, but you're going to get what you pay for. You know, when you go, this is a very good high quality bait, and making the investment and taking care of that investment by making sure you retie and use the right equipment, it's well worth the investment. And what I look for when fishing bull shad is I try to look for areas like small troughs and grass lines, little trough areas and grass lines. And you can look at your GPS mapping and see any kind of oddity in your grass lines on this lake. You may have a grass line that goes for a mile up to 2 miles, and all of a sudden you'll see an oddity in your depth contour line where that grass line may turn in, or it turns out, or it makes a little trough area. A lot of times those areas, those oddities in your depth contour will create shell beds. Some of them do, some of them just creates the different depth of the grass grows in. So you may have grass right up against the surface, you may have grass 2 or 3 feet under the surface. Those places that's got those oddities in your contour depth lines are the places that are going to be effective for these bull shads. Usually I try to make sure this thing makes a wake. Keep it just under the surface. Regardless if I'm throwing a bull gill, bull shad, regardless of the color. I always try to make sure it's just right under the surface. If I get to where I get a few strikes to where they're just kind of bowling on it and not taking it, I'll start twitching my rod and make it kind of just touch the surface a little bit. The best time to use this bull shad is early morning, late evening, of course, but anytime you got any kind of cloudy skies, a little wind, a little ripple effect on the water, and right in the middle of the day, you can catch fish on this bull shad. Yes, the toughest time to use them is like the conditions we have right now, like bluebird skies and dead calm conditions. You can still occasionally get one to hit, but it's a little bit tougher as far as these kind of situations. But the evening and morning bite on these are just phenomenal. And the strikes on this, I mean, you'd have to see it just to see just exactly how hard they can hit this bait. There's one. That's a solid fish there. Whew.